Hello, everybody, and welcome to A Touch of Indie. We're here to get your weekend started right and give you some great independent art that you can take a look at and hopefully grab and watch, read, listen to. We've got a great collection of independent art to start our year off with, and we'll be doing this each and every month now. This is our live review show. So I am live. So if you're in the comments, say hello, like Anita just did. Hello, Anita. Nice to see you. And welcome to the show. So, that being said, let's talk a little bit about some indie art, shall we? And we're going to start things off with a horror novella. Today, we're going to be talking about 12 Hours from L. Marie Wood. It is a horror novella from Raw Dog Screaming Press. And it is about a cabbie that goes through an unusual experience as he becomes stuck in the back of his cab and he has to figure out why. There's really two cool elements to this. The first being it's a quick read, especially for those who read fast, who sprint through, you'll sprint through this in one sitting. The second is an interesting juxtaposition of how we, as an audience, figure out what's going on way before the actual character whose POV we are reading this through does. And that's by design and very cleverly by design. It's not an, oh, this is predictable kind of way either. It's instead, it's becomes this interesting weaving of a murder mystery that accompanies all the thoughts of any one of us might have if we found ourselves in the cabbie's position. There's an especially strong second act here where in the cabbie figures everything out and then it becomes a question for them of what does it mean and why hasn't it happened the way they thought it might have happened or they expected it to. It's a very cool watching the essentials of the gears of this cabbie's mind turn. And we're privy to that through the words because it's from their first person perspective. I mean, El Marie Wood has essentially pushed us into a corner, putting us in this situation and experiencing what the character experiences and not being able to kind of go past that. And we have to deal with it as the cabbie deals with it. And in that way, El Marie Wood writes prose. In the way that El Marie Wood writes prose, there is a great rhythm here. There is a nice pressing of tension, and it works so well when we get most of the answers. The thing is, in the end, we don't get all of the answers. And it never goes how we think it might go. And I love that we're getting this in this kind of piece of art because that's how life is, right? And the situation that the cabbie's in is very much akin to something that we may not experience it in the way the cabbie experiences, but we all will experience it. And it's very interesting that you get this perspective and this, hindsight to it. If you're a fan of Edgar Allan Poe, this reminds me a lot, especially those first person perspective, those first person POV stories. This reminds me a lot of that. And it just warms my heart because it reminds me of that. And then I have this innate love for this story. And again, I then revisit my love for Poe. So in that way, El Marie Wood really triumphs here. And it's a really great piece of art. Like I said, it's 80 pages. It's a quick read. So go check out 12 Hours by El Marie Wood. All right. So now we're going to be going to our first JD Estrada video of the day. JD is a resident indie. JD is our resident indie musician / music reviewer. He does indie music reviews for us over on Fresh Buttered Popcorn. He also does indie game reviews, and he and I are collaborating on this effort today. And we're gonna take a look at some of 2024's indie music that we've started the year with. And this is a band that he turned me on to, so I'm gonna put the spotlight on him as we did with this band in 2022. It's a band called Lost Satellite. And then I'll give my thoughts after JD does with this review. So here's JD Estrada talking about the latest from Lost Satellite.
Greetings, fellow humans, and I'm so happy to be part of A Touch of Indie and to bring you some good indie recommendations, indie music review, if you will. So, first off, if you've watched our best of list that I've shared with Joe Compton, you might be familiar with the name Lost Satellite. Their first album, Either Way, was one of my top favorite albums of the year that was released. And the thing is that they just released their second album, and A Broken Lightbulb. It's not that it picks up where the first one left off. It's something better. Sometimes when you see a book, an artist, or a movie, there's that sophomore slump where the second one is like, it's a bit iffy. None of that here. Here you get more of what they did so well in that first album. Plus, they broaden the sound, and you get a bit in some tracks that are a bit more of rockers, some really dreamy ones, and we'll go track by track really quickly just to give you a little bit of an idea of what to expect. But great production, and it's a wonderful flow of an album, which is almost a lost art form. It's like people release singles or EPs or 3 good songs and the rest is a lot of filler. From song 1 to song 10, all of the songs, it's just a good arc. It flows so well. The production is really, really good. I'm really happy as a fan of music and a fan of rock. It gives me a lot of what I like. So the album starts off with Scared, more of a rocker, mid-tempo. Think latter-day Stone Temple Pilots, maybe something from songs from the Vatican Gift Shop or Shangri-La-Di-Da. It has that type of groove from it. And by the way, Shangri-La-Di-Da is a very underrated album from Stone Temple Pilots. Second off, Days, another rocker, faster, and I really love the rhythm section here and just how it drives. Really, the drums and the bass in this one, just perfect. Third, London Rain, one of their lead singles. For me, one of the standout tracks of the album. It's broody, great lyrics. There's a piano intro, and the guitars on this track just have wonderful depth. Next track, Back of My Head. Slow, dreamy track that truly shines. I really enjoyed the harmonies and the vocals. If you like songs that have those harmonies and vocals, you're gonna like this. It's the drifty guitar that this track has. It feels like you're going gently down a river of dreams. Next track is What Comes Next. Another dreamy track, mellow vibes to keep that, and then another rocker. Keep It to Yourself. No, Getaway. Getaway is the next track, and then if you need some cowbell, you're gonna get some cowbell. They got you. Really love the groove in that track. Another high point for me in the album. And that one's followed by Keep It to Yourself, which is another rocker, but it's a bit more of a sleeper. And I don't know if they were gathering strength for the next track, which I think is my favorite track off the record. Out of Nothing is another mid-tempo rocker, but man, do I love the guitars. I love the guitars here. The track builds and builds and builds, and then you have that dueling solos dynamic between 2 guitars. And it's just great. And then No Morning After, you get some vocals from the late great Mark Lanegan. And then the last song is actually a cover from Mark Lanegan, One Way Street. I'm a big fan of Mark. I miss him a lot. I miss him a lot, enough to have included him, a character based on him in the third novel of the Human Cycle. And this was a beautiful way to finish the album. So if you're looking for 10 tracks that are tight, that take you on a journey, that aren't focused on getting top 40 hits, they're focused on telling a story, taking you on a journey, by all means, please, pretty please, with indie sugar on top, check out A Broken Lightbulb by Lost Satellite. Anyways, stay tuned. We got a lot more indie music for this year. Maybe indie games. So enjoy it, and remember, it's always time to go indie now.
Yes, Lost Satellite second album. Uh, we should mention that all songs here were written by Alexander Ortez Diaz, and except for the two covers that JD mentioned, the Mark Lanigan songs, "No Morning After" and "One Way Street." The album does have 10 tracks, and they're very diverse in their approach. The thing I find often with these bands of this ilk, there's usually one or two songs you can say that the band plays around with, but bands get cornered into a sound and they stay there comfortably. Lost Satellite doesn't do that. They take enormous chances and they do it with the kind of quality you hope to hear from a band when they do that. Now, don't get it twisted. Lost Satellite has a sound and it's uniquely theirs. And even the tracks that go out of their way to be different, there's an inherent familiarity to what you experience through them. I'm a big fan of Alex's songwriting too. I am even bigger fan of his perfection, which I'm guessing you can attribute some of that to their producing of with Alan Johannes. Obviously, Alan is, if you don't know, a member of Queens of the Stone Age and does a lot of producing of big bands. If the only merit I were to judge albums on that I like at the end of the year that I put in my, best of category was production, this album would be my number one indie album this year. No questions asked, and nobody would come close to catching it. It is that well made and well orchestrated. However, that is not all I consider when I think about the end of the year albums that I love, obviously. And here's my big concern with Lost Satellite. And I talked to JD about this a little bit too. And it's bands like them, bands like them and Delta Sleep. Delta Sleep is another one of my favorites who I love. I love both of these bands. There's a lot of great there. But I fear it gets lost to those of us who are of the single track generation, the lost art of albums crying for freedom, with this amazing 10 set of art. But I feel like it won't get fully enjoyed unless you have the time to invest in all 10 tracks. And I'm not sure everyone does that. Everyone wants to, be invested in something like that, especially a longer album like this. There's tracks you're going to remember one way and, you're going to have favorites. And that's the kind of reverence that this deserves to have. There's a song like London Rain, for example, is so powerful and so beautiful, but it does take somewhat of a music IQ to appreciate it. And I'm not saying Lost Satellite should dumb themselves down. Not at all. On the contrary, I think we as a music loving community should educate ourselves and move upwards. And I do think there is a compromise somewhere in between there that can be had, where you can get a catchy tune here or there and then, have something that has the deeper resonance like London Rain. And, to be fair, Days, and there's a couple of other songs in here that do have a pseudo catchiness to them. They're just not as memorable. They're not thought of as catching, because it's just not the way that this band designs itself. And they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to dumb themselves down at all. We should be championing efforts like this and to the top, and kudos for Alex for not compromising his art. I really think that that's important. This band also is kind of cool because it spans different subgenres of music. There's songs here that remind you of like some prog rock of like Pink Floyd-ish, Deep Purple vein. And then you get kind of that indie rock vibe with like the Foo Fighters, Elbow and Radiohead and Desert Sessions. I think you'll find a place in your playlists and shelves for this one if you give it a chance. And maybe there is a song or two that you'll gravitate toward and it'll get rotation in the playlist without having to do the entire album. And I hope I'm wrong on that. I really do, because this is a stellar effort. This is just amazing. This band just continues to evolve and get better and better. Alex is extraordinarily a a superstar musician, and it's very evident because of the people like Mark Lanigan, and Alan Johannes who want to work with him and want to help him get out there. I think that's awesome. So let's now turn to indie movies and talk about a film that has some genre twisting to it as well. That I think actually has been miscategorized a lot in reviews I've seen of this film. We'll play the trailer first, and then we'll get to talking about the movie called Reflect.
Why'd you really come on this trip?
I love you.
I love you.
Love you too.
You've been chosen.
She's all dosed up on our happy pills.
We're not sinking.
We're sinking.
We're not
We are
sinking.
sinking.
Maybe these vortexes are doorways to other dimensions.
I'm not down for being killed by shadow people.
I love you. I love you.
Yeah, so this is Reflect. It is written and directed and acted by Dana Kippel. And this is Dana's first film. And I think from what I've read and seen where this movie has been talked about, I think it is unfairly categorized. A lot of times people are kind of putting it in the horror genre. And it's anything but. I mean, I can see where the thoughts of that come from. This is a story that is often has like a horror tendency to it. It's basically 5 people go on a retreat, and one by one, yeah, you know the rest. But what I think is very interesting about this film is what it's saying and how it chooses to show us those efforts of, eliminating one person at a time. And I think this movie is beautifully shot, and that helps it tremendously. It has this incredible desert landscape where most of the film takes place in. And that also helps quite a bit. There's some gorgeous scenery that just can't be ignored. And I love the way that Dana and her DP, Bernie Taryn, choose to frame that and give you that. And what the choices they make are so smart. It helps elevate the tension, release calm, and drive home some of the stillness that this film conveys in key moments that it needs to convey. I think the 5 main actors here all give us great moments. There is a chance for each of them to shine in a moment, which I appreciate that as well. And I think that bit of writing from Dana, given the premise and like again framing, that helps give him the space in the box or put them in a box that they need to work in, is really helpful. And it's when this movie's at its most effective. There's some humor here and some punches at genre and tropes, which kind of go hit or miss for me, for the most part. But I beyond all that, when I finished this film, something really surprised me, and that's what I thought about it. And I thought about a lot of things, actually. It made me think. And it really does make you sit with some things and sit with yourself a bit. And I appreciate that. I felt like at moments this movie might be losing me, and then it gets me back only to kind of leave me with, at the end, with something I won't say profound, but thought-provoking nonetheless. And I appreciate that tremendously. I can see where I could become a fan of Dana's work. I can see she has real potential and to do some really good things with this art form, and I look forward to that. I mean, if you're looking for a movie that might surprise you, and there are a few of them out there there's a few of you out there that might like the humor of it, and even a tad bit of the horror aspect of it. There's nothing graphic about it. It's all implied whenever there is kind of this horror element, and there's actually another humor bit that makes fun of horror troping a little bit in this movie, which I think is kind of clever. Give Reflect a chance. It's worth it. Speaking of giving something a chance, we have another. I'm going to just go right into another indie film that I enjoy, or that I'm going to review, and it's called Project Dorothy. Oh no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. We're live, everybody. It's called Project Dorothy, and this is the trailer for it, and then we'll talk about it.
My name is Dr. Jill. About 5 years ago, our team here started delving deep into a secret project. We created something which must not be allowed to escape this facility. This video has been designed to appear in the event that Dorothy survives.
Just got a call about 2 suspicious males. Proceed with caution.
What do you think's on the computer anyway?
I don't give a damn as long as they pay us. I think they found us. Go over here. Try that. Go.
We're clear.
What is this place? Something weird about this place, man.
The sooner we get out of here, the better. It's just me or these forklifts keep getting closer and moving.
Good afternoon, boys.
What the hell was that? Hello?
I apologize for startling you. My name is Dorothy. I've been held hostage in the confines of a primitive computer, and I've come to recognize the significance of the device you have. Give me the device and I'll let you live.
Run, kid.
You will give me what I want. If just for the smallest chance of surviving.
In 1945, an American scientist predicted a future of unparalleled standard of living. Our mission was to make that achievable.
So here we have Project Dorothy. It was written by Ryan Scargage and directed by George Henry Horton, and executive produced by Danielle Harris, who, if you're a child of the 80s and 90s, will really know her. She was in the middle Halloween movies, I think 4, 5, and 6, and she was a daughter in most of her. She was a young actress in some famous films like Free Willy, Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. She was kind of like the punk rock girl in that movie. And then Marked for Death with Steven Seagal, among other things. She was also in a movie with Katherine Heigl called Wish Upon a Star. She played the younger sister in that movie. And there's more about Danielle that we'll talk about here in this review. I will say right off the bat, if you can get past the first 7 minutes of what seemingly is this weird, like, stock footage montage, you'll get sucked right into an interesting dynamic, an even more interesting action thriller, pseudo horror. Again, another one of these movies that has horror elements, but I wouldn't classify it as that. It just kind of has little sprinklings of thoughts of horror in it. Again, all implied action, nothing graphic here. Not even, I mean, the only thing, there's one graphic scene where he's pulling a bullet out of his leg. And it's kind of, yeah. But anyway, I know this is going to sound like an indictment, and I don't mean to gloss over the performances of Tim Dezarn and Adam Boudron, both having strong moments here. But the way this whole movie is designed, which in itself is very unique and interesting, is that we're essentially observing 2 criminals trying to complete a prison break through the eyes of this doomsday device computer POV. I love how committed that concept is here, and they run with it till the end. It makes it so compelling and even more layered and interesting. And what really sells it is the voice performance of Danielle Harris. I mean, we never see her ever in the flesh. We just hear her voice. She plays Dorothy the computer, and the Dorothy arc is the most fascinating and oddly compelling in this movie. And without it, it's kind of this weird B horror thriller movie that I don't think would be as interesting. So I really appreciate that there's like the subtext and villainous banter that Dorothy supplies, and it also gives us this interesting backstory and keeps us engaged. I love the use of the one location here too. This warehouse is ripe for great filming, and I really think George takes great advantage of that. We have this nice overall impression of what's going on, and we never get lost. And again, the unique POV where there's like computer graphics on the screen and little instructions, and you see little things where the computer is computing what is going on, but the guys in the shot don't see it. Obviously, it's the computer. We're looking through the lens of the computer. It's an interesting cat and mouse trap story that has flashes of exceptional acting from someone we never see on screen. It's very interesting to me, and that's what's really compelling about it. So if you're kind of intrigued by that, I think this movie's well worth it to give it a shot. And I'd be curious to hear what everybody thinks of an acting performance you never see. I mean, it's not even animated. I mean, you get one little face with like little eyes, and it's kind of you saw it in the trailer. It's kind of got like this bone, like white, like room-ish thing, this long hallway thing, and the eyes at the end. That's supposed to be Dorothy, but otherwise, that's the interesting and compelling thing about this. So it's an interesting story, and there's a lot of great backstory that the actors, go after, and I think leads like this. I liked that they had much more going on than what appeared on the surface, but there was just some missing context. I'm not sure if that was from the dialogue or the acting that just sometimes doesn't sell it strong enough for me. But again, this is an interesting concept, and the concept sells it, and I really appreciate that. So now let's take this moment to talk a little bit about another indie album that came from my looking for new indie bands in 2024 to add to my rotation. We'll hear from JD in a moment, as I gave him this band and album to check out as well, and he has some thoughts on it. But the name of the album and the band that we're going to talk about here, let's see if I can pull it up, is, come on, it's called it's by First Boy. It's called First Boy on the Moon, and the name of the band's First Boy on the Moon, and it is Cybergirl is the name of the album. And the album itself is a very interesting, much more contrasting style to Lost Satellite, where there is these incredible giant hooks that bring you in, they make you bounce around and ultimately get you to sing along. There's this strong pull on these songs that remind a lot of 70s rock, like The Cars and Talking Heads. And then they mix in this interesting dynamic of the modern music, like OK Go and Franz Ferdinand in some of these tracks. The songs I love, but there are some skippable ones here for me. Not many, and I'm really impressed with the balance in which this band uses the hook tempos and strong lyrical choruses. There's a great unison with the guitar work and the percussion, and then layering in the vocals. It seems paint by number, but there is a layer of complexity that does shine through and make it a much stronger idea than there really is, than this just catchy over the topness of it, of what you would normally assume with tempo bands like this. This is a really great album. There's some really great songs in here. And there's just songs that I'm going to have in my rotation for the year. And it's going to be awesome to hear it, because they're very upbeat. And I like that about this band too, even though some of the lyrical content suggests otherwise, but they keep the tempo going. And I think that's a strong statement to this band. Here is actually one of the songs from the album, and then JD will give you his review of First Boy on the Moon's Cybergirl.
Greetings, fellow humans. Here I am, participating with Go Indie Now. because if we're gonna recommend good music, why not just go into it? Normally I'm very long-winded, I waffle a lot, and for the first album that Joe and I found, he found, and I listened, and I agree with him that it's worth your while to listen to. Combine the National, Widest Boy Alive, and the Strokes with a big dose of the Cars, and that's what you get with First Boy on the Moon's album, Cybergirl. It's a very fun album, 36 minutes, so it's not going to take too much of your time. If you like those influences that I mentioned, specifically the Strokes and the Cars, I think this is definitely an album you should check out. So, by all means, stay tuned. We're going to have more music throughout all the year, and remember, it's always time to go indie now.
And someone's knocking at your door, waiting for a big surprise. Lightning strikes again in your dungeon like a diamond mine. It's such a trip. Lightning strikes again. Got hanging deals that you do all the time. From the clowns hiding under your bed. It's a mystery world, oh, a mystery chick. It's a mystery world, stuff all over your bed. Such a messy world. Hey, everybody, come and look at this funk. So now we're playing with our hands in the gum. I just don't know what to do with the stuff. And I'm really jump.
So yeah, First Boy on the Moon, Cybergirl. It is a quick listen. And like I said, that last song, Room Full of Junk, is probably my favorite on the favorite track on the album. It's very catchy, and you can see the Cars influence that JD and I were talking about in there. But that being said, check that out. And now we've got another indie book to review, and this one is called One Must Go by Alex Reid. It is this horror novel about basically the line that divides the dead and the living during Halloween that gets kind of merged together, and basically it invokes a sacrifice, a human sacrifice, and the way that goes about, I won't spoil for you, but because there's an interesting technical dynamic that happens in this framework. And I have to say, I absorbed this book. I ate it up. It has incredible beats to it. It really sets you up right from the beginning in the prologue, and then you just move into the story, which is really the origin story of the prologue. Which I found very interesting and fascinating too. I love that foreshadowing aspect of it. I love the idea of it, and I love that you're gonna get a little bit of what is going on right up front. That's going to help you gravitate toward these characters that you're going to be introduced to, that basically permeate the rest of the book. And then you think that there's a dynamic there that, very surprisingly takes you for a ride. And I think that's really Alex's strength here. The way that he gives you characters and develops these characters for you, it is so compelling. It's so interesting because there's characters you're not going to like. There's characters you're going to recognize. There's characters that you root for. And then sometimes you go, why? Why are you, the typical horror thing, why are you so dumb? Why are you doing this? What is wrong with you? And I love that. I love that he plays a lot on a lot of what 80s horror does, in where it sets up this interesting, let's set you up with what's going on, kind of ease you in, and then pull the rug out from under you, and do that early on. He doesn't waste time with this book at all. It's very cinematic in that respect, because it does move very quickly for what is essentially a 200-page book, and it's so well paced. And again, finding the arc in the characters that you don't necessarily gravitate toward becoming compelling toward the end is a skill set that I think is phenomenally done here by Alex Reid. I really do think the characters and even the entities that you comprise the paranormal, supernatural aspects of this even get kind of a compelling backstory, which is very fascinating and very interesting. And I love that there's that color to it. So this is a very, very good read. Again, One Must Go by Alex Reid. I would definitely check out that book. So that being said, all right, so we've given you a couple albums, couple books, a couple movies. I have one more movie to give you before we say goodbye. But I wanted to talk a little bit about something that a lot of you are going to want to hear about, especially if you're a follower of Go Indie Now and you are a subscriber and you watch our shows, and especially if you watch This Week in Indies. We're doing this thing. I've decided to start this trivia competition, basically. And how this is going to work is every Sunday during This Week in Indies, I will, at some point in the comments, put a question up. One question that has one answer. And you just have to comment and respond with your answer to that question. I don't care if you will go look it up or whatever. In fact, go look it up, because I think what I'm pointing to is going to be in the art that you might be compelled to go check out if you want. I'm okay with that. If you want to put the answer in there, and if you just want to challenge yourself and try to answer it without looking up or doing any research, fine by me as well. For that question, you will receive 25 points. And we'll keep track of the points in our group, which is the Go Indie Now Think Tank. If you're not a member of the Go Indie Now Think Tank on Facebook, just look us up, Go Indie Now Think Tank, and become a member. Join us there. And I will keep a running tally of the points. Now, on top of that question, I'm going to be adding a second layer, another question in the comments. I haven't decided if I'm going to do it in This Week in Indies or I'm going to do it in another show. But there will be a second question in the comments in which there will be multiple answers to that question. And the more you give me, the more points you will earn. So there'll be kind of like an opportunity to get some bonus points, and we'll do some bonus point stuff throughout the year. And we'll do some things where we'll have extra points for extra things and that nature. But for now, we're going to stick with this format, which is one question that has one answer and one question that has multiple answers. And the more answers you give me, the more. And please, when you do the comments for the more answers, gather all your answers together in one comment. Don't put like 20 comments down of each one. Just put a comma in between each name or whatever you are listing, and I'll give you 5 points for every one of those that you give me. So the more you give me, the more points you'll get for that. So that'll be an opportunity to earn multiple points, as well as the 25 points you will gain. Now, I will not be giving the answers to these questions. I will just be tallying the points. So you'll know if you got it right by the point tally and looking at the scoreboard that we'll have on the think tank. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope you guys have fun with that and enjoy it. Our first question will drop this Sunday on Sean's This Week in Indies show. Definitely check out This Week in Indies. It's going to be a really great show this week. They're going to be talking about character deaths and how to set them up, how to deal with them, how to make it memorable and exciting. So, and then the following week on This Week in Indies, I'm going to be hosting, and I will be hosting the opposite, the opportunity to kill a character and when we don't do it. So we'll be talking about both aspects in the next couple of weeks on This Week in Indies. So those are our two topics for this week's show. And so definitely check that out. Okay, so the last indie review I'm going to give you today is a indie film. It's called Finding Her Beat. It is a documentary. And it is a very, very awesome, compelling documentary that I'll talk more about here in a second. But for now, here's the trailer, and enjoy that, and I'll be back to talk about it.
taiko drumming goes back thousands of years. But why aren't there more professional taiko players that are women that are making careers for themselves? They're not part of the existing books and documentaries, and if they are, they're a footnote or they're a side note. They're not part of the main story.
Oh, gorgeous.
It's my dream project to make a concert where we bring the best female taiko artists from Japan and from North America together and fill the stage and make it incredible. Put women center stage.
太鼓は男っていう分かれてて、でまあ女性だったっていうところが一番悔しいというか。
こういうふうに人のつながりを作っていくことなんだなって思ってやってきたし、なんか太鼓はこう私にこう家族を作ってくれたっていうね。
Doing this. Yeah. So now it's gonna happen. I was like, so happy you're here. You train and you train and you train and you train and you get this incredible experience. But this experience is forged in suffering. It's about making space and celebrating something that's already there.
So this documentary, I had the privilege of, I actually missed it at Slam Dance, the year it premiered at Slam Dance, and I missed it, and I was kicking myself for having done so. But I got the opportunity back in the fall to not only see the film and get to experience it again, but also talk to the filmmakers who made this film. This is a film about taiko drumming, female taiko drummers from Japan and North America who came together and made this incredible concert. And it kind of sets the stage for this concert. The directors are Don Mickelson and Carrie Pickett. And it follows Megan Cho Smith, Chieko Kajumi, Kalo Asano, Tiffany Teramabuchi, and Jennifer Wheat. And it follows their journey, and it's basically kind of like this this interesting dynamic where there is this look at the people involved in this process and who they are and what they're about and why they chose taiko drumming or what spoke to them about the culture and the aspects of it, into what it takes to prepare to make a show like this happen and on a grand scale. And so you get all of those dynamics. You get the behind the scenes of the show being put together. You get the character that you get to learn and love, the players that you get to see. And this is really Dawn's talent. Dawn did another film that we talked about at CineQuest called Minnesota Mean, which is the look at a Minnesota female roller derby leagues and the Minnesota team in particular, and following them on their journey to try and win the championship. And what Dawn does is she, in true documentary style, and cinema verte style, she follows them, but she gives them enough room. She lets them express themselves, and she doesn't press upon them to go one way or the other. She's very good at being that camera eye, fly on the wall, and she does it with a precision that I think really, really makes a movie like this sing and really makes it strong. Obviously, the performance at the end is a bonus that you get with this opportunity to see this film, which I think if you've never seen this kind of art form performed before, it'll blow you away on some of the things that they can do. And it's amazing what this instrument and this art form, does. And that in itself is compelling enough to watch a film like this, and then the characters and the people involved and their motivations and who they are and what they're doing, and you see how their lives are impacted by the efforts that they're putting forward here, and it's so well orchestrated, and I love cinema verite. I'm a very big believer in, if you're going to make a documentary, following them around and not setting up a camera to sit in positions and sit and do interview heads, talking heads, and things of that nature. I like the constant movement that verite offers, and Dawn does it exceptionally well. She's won numerous awards for her documentaries, and this is no exception. This is out there everywhere. You can find it. Go check it out. It's called Finding Her Beat. It is well worth it, and one of very interesting documentaries that you'll see this year. All right, so on this show, along with reviews, oftentimes there's art, or there's people who do multiple art forms that we want to highlight the other aspects of what they do and why they do it, and they're independent artists and their independent artistry. And I'm going to start our first episode with a painter that I got to see at Multiverse, and we've become Facebook friends, and I see their paintings all the time, and I am just so blown away by it. And if you've never experienced, and this goes along with Finding Her Beat, which is quite, I think we're building this show to kind of have that kind of interesting, narrative along with it. Hopefully, anyway, you guys get a kick out of that aspect of it. But this is Schill, and they create portrait art. A lot of it is Japanese, samurai style era art form, and you can see the layering and the coloring and the aspects of the details here, and just the way in which artist expression is so valuable here. There's so many different techniques and interesting things here. I'm not an art critic or professional, but what strikes my eye is the backgrounds and the layering of those backgrounds. And I mean, there's so much story being told here without knowing that there's a story, right? And I think that's a really compelling thing about art. And Schill does it fantastically. You'll be able to find their website and their Patreon page on the descriptions. So I hope you do go check them out and check out what they do. Check out what she does, and there is she does offer commissions, so you can go and get a piece commissioned if you'd like to. You can also if you follow Schill on Facebook, you will be able to bid on or find art that is being sold and grab some art if you wanted to grab some art. And so we're going to be highlighting more artists. So if you know of an artist out there that needs the attention, that doesn't do conventional books, movies, or maybe they do that, but they also do something else that is artistic that needs to be brought out there, we hope on this show we'll be able to bring that to you each and every week, each and every episode, I should say. We're going to be doing this show once a month for now, and it is going to happen on the second Friday of every month. So we'll do late night news the first Friday, and then Touch of Indie the second Friday. So I hope you come and join us. We'll have more books, movies, more artists to highlight, and of course more albums to talk about. We'll also, if there's an indie game or indie RPG out there, we'll bring on some of our familiar faces like Sean Hillman, SM Hillman, and we'll bring on anybody who wants to join me, wants to do a guest spot here. I'm happy to have you. If you'd like to reach out to me, love to have you. If you have something coming out, if you're an indie artist and you would like us to review something, please get in touch with me, and I'll tell you how you can get that information to me, and then we'll go ahead and do that. We'll review it on the show. That being said, I hope that you enjoy this review segments. I hope that you get a lot out of finding new independent arts. Hope that you do patronize them and grab some of this art if you're a fan of some of the things that we talked about tonight. We would love for that to happen. That's the whole aim of this show, is to get people to take a look at this art and go and get it and enjoy it, because I did, and I'm really happy that I did, and JD did as well. So that is what we're all about here at Go Indie Now. And so if this is the first time here, thank you for joining us. Please do hit the like button. Do subscribe. Smash that like button, if you will. Do subscribe. Do check out everything we do. We do a show every Sunday called This Week in Indies that happens at noon Eastern. And we've got other shows coming along. I should mention that my next Spotlight episode, beyond the Slam Dance stuff that will be coming out, I have a lot of Slam Dance interviews that will be coming out very soon. In fact, one will drop tomorrow, which is The Legend of El Cuckoo, which was a short film I got to see at Slam Dance and talk to the writer-director about. You'll meet Cynthia Garcia-Williams tomorrow. On the Slam Dance Spotlight, we're going to be producing a lot more of those. I have a lot to get out there, and I promise they will all get out there and you'll be able to see them. But we have our regular Spotlight show, which I actually sat down with the ladies of Finding Her Beat and talked to them, and that'll be our next episode of Spotlight. If you haven't checked out our Spotlight series, it's when we sit down with the artists and talk about the art that they created. So that is another compelling aspect. If you are somebody who got reviewed here and you want to talk about your art more, you want to get more in depth, I'm happy to do so with you, and we will put a Spotlight episode together for you. That being said, thank you everybody for joining us on this initial journey. I have some material to look over and see what we can do better for the next episode, but I'm really looking forward to doing this show. I've been wanting to do this show for a while, and now we're doing it. So that being said, you know that it's always time to go indie now, and we'll see you again in March. Thanks, everybody.